All right, we're going to go back home here. This again is the way the sky looks. Cincinnati, looking towards the south-ish, southwest, September 5th, 2020. Moon is coming up here. And if I, again, say, show the constellations where we're at in September, you'll see the summer constellations again high up in the sky here. Oh, because again, towards the ecliptic, or I'm sorry, towards the zenith, you have these particular constellations. This is pretty late at night in the summer, so some of the fall constellations that I was saying are starting to come above the horizon. In the fall, as we get a little earlier at night, these will become more prominent. But this late at night, what I want you to see is, whoa, gosh, if I go now towards the west, the constellations that are starting to set for the summer. So the Ophiuchus and the snake, the head of the snake, Serpens caput, that's very low in the sky. Hercules is getting lower towards the horizon because, remember, this is our zenith way up there. You know, a few hours ago, Hercules was at the zenith. A few hours ago, Lyra was at the zenith. And Cygnus is getting farther from the zenith right now. So now we're kind of, this late. If I go to, 8:40 p.m., see how Hercules is now much closer to the zenith. Lyra is almost right there. And how low in the east that Pegasus is just now, again, coming above the horizon here in September. So again, if I go, to October, November, now we're into these fall constellations that I just said again. Pegasus and Andromeda. Pisces is a good one. Aries, please remember that relationship in terms of defining springtime when the sun is in it. Now opposite the sun, when we look at the sky, very close to, at night here, that's when you'll see Aries. Perseus with Algol. Perseus, again, is an interesting constellation when he killed Medusa. Algol is said to be the head of Medusa. Al, the ghoul, the ghost. And then this is Auriga with Capella here, coming up here in the fall. But as we get, November, let's go, 10 at night in November, and you see how Auriga and Perseus are now fairly high in the sky. And our zenith now has Andromeda very close to it. And what you'll learn is that's very, very close to where the Andromeda galaxy actually is at our zenith in the fall, November, here in Cincinnati. So there's some of the more prominent fall constellations that we just went over. And again, how high up Pegasus is, that great square. That's very prominent, very easy to see with Andromeda in it, and Perseus, and kind of the whole relationship with Andromeda, Cassiopeia, Perseus, and Cepheus is that whole story. Basically, the movie Clash of the Titans, if you'd seen that one. But what I want you to look way low in the east here. Just now coming over the horizon this late at night in November, which means if I give it a few more months, this constellation Orion is going to be much higher in the sky. And that's the basis of our winter constellation. Probably the most famous constellation in the sky is Orion, one of, if not the. So December 5th. January 5th at 10 o'clock at night. See how high up Orion is. Our zenith is way up there. Orion is climbing pretty darn high in the sky. Okay, this is at 10:43. See, when I go, I don't know, January 20, something like that, wintertime. I mean, we're looking pretty high up. And here's where I want you to now start associating wintertime constellations. And Orion is by far one of the most recognizable constellations in the sky. Okay, associate Orion with wintertime. Please, for gosh sakes, do. What you can see is there are two very, very bright stars in Orion. This one right here, and it has a very strange name. It's pronounced Betelgeuse, just like the movie in the 80s. It is a very bright, very orange red star. It is a red giant. This is a star near called his foot, Rigel. It is a very, very bright, very hot blue star. Orion's belt is one of the most easily recognizable things in the sky to see. All right, usually you'll just kind of see those four stars, kind of this hourglass looking shape. It's usually pretty hard to see his shield, or some people call it a bow. And then this is his raised up arm with a club. It's hard to see those mostly, but this Orion, get to know that with summertime. In fact, get to know those two stars, Betelgeuse and Rigel. Okay, what I want you to also associate with wintertime is the zodiac constellation Taurus, the bull. Okay, now you see this little string right here. You'll very rarely notice that, but this is a very prominent V shape, kind of a cone. That is what you'll most often be able to see fairly easily. That very bright red star is called Aldebaran. It's like the eye of a bull, and then these are his horns up here. But please associate Taurus. Orion is kind of pointing-ish towards Taurus. Maybe the belt of Orion-ish kind of helps you find it with that little V shape with that. And then these little guys here, the Pleiades, it's a neat little star cluster that is just kind of right on the back of Taurus the bull. That story from Greek mythology, who the Pleiades are, is an interesting story to read. But Orion and Taurus, very, very easily pick outable in the winter sky, and the Pleiades are very easy also. Orion's belt also kind of points in the other direction towards this constellation, Canis Major, the big dog. And Canis Major has the brightest star that's visible at night, and it's in the northern hemisphere. It is called Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. The reason we say it's the brightest star is because when Venus is visible, it is brighter. And when the moon is there, usually the moon's brighter. And the sun is the brightest thing in the skies. But Sirius, Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, associate that with Canis Major. It's the big dog. It is one of the hunting dogs that accompanies Orion, along with Canis Minor in the star Procyon. Okay, this little constellation Monoceros, it's a very dim one. You won't be able to see it. But the three stars that make up now the winter triangle. Remember, there had a summer triangle, but that was 6 months ago. The winter triangle is three stars that are very, very bright in the winter sky, and that is Betelgeuse, along with Procyon in Canis Minor, and Sirius in Canis Major. So this triangle right here is called the winter triangle, and it is an asterism. It is just a shape that's easily recognizable because those three stars are very, very bright, and they will help you navigate your way through the night sky in the wintertime. But again, that shape there, Orion, very, very easily recognizable. Kind of on the shoulder-ish of Orion, I want you to remember Gemini. All right. It's a very easily recognizable constellation. It literally is kind of two parallel lines. They look literally like twins, and they are the Gemini twins. Castor and Pollux are the two stars that are the Gemini twins. And an interesting story from mythology about who Castor and Pollux are. And then a little over here again, Cancer. Remember, when the sun rises in Cancer, it is the definition of our beginning of the summer. So when the Earth is pointing the exact opposite side of that, is when we're in winter time, okay? And so this is kind of the definition of winter. But again, you can see Cancer, what they're trying to kind of say is that looks like the claw of a crab kind of pointing down there. That's where that term comes from. All right. But again, please remember wintertime constellations, and remember the fall constellations now are the ones that are very close to setting in the west here. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And as you know, time keeps going on. We'll get there to see what the springtime constellations are. December, whoops, January, March, November, March, boom. If we get into April, see how way in the west now, Canis Major, Cancer, Orion. So Orion is now pretty much already below the horizon, isn't he? To the west. Because Gemini is here. This is Betelgeuse of Orion in his arm. So now to the west, here that we're in April in the springtime, the majority of Orion is below the horizon at 11 o'clock at night. So now we're making room for the springtime constellations, which Leo is a very good springtime constellation. Actually, it kind of looks like a lion a little bit, doesn't it? But there's the head of a lion and the tail of a lion. This star right there, Regulus, is one I would like for you to associate with Leo, kind of the heart of the lion right there. And again, if you look almost straight up, you'll see that Leo is very close to the zenith, which is what those red circle arrows mean. The Dipper is very, very high in the sky, and you see how the Dipper's arc kind of points to this star right there, Arcturus, which is how I want you to remember that. So the springtime constellation Boötes is one I want you to remember. Boötes, it's a very funny name, but it's very easily recognizable because the Big Dipper's handle curves and arcs down to Arcturus right there, a very bright star, and you'll be able to see this constellation very, very easily. Along with Leo the Lion, you'll be able to see that one very, very easily. And if you kind of follow that curve, it's not perfect, but if you keep going down, boom, you hit this star. It's labeled Spica. This is in the constellation Virgo. Virgo is a very, very strongly associated constellation with springtime. All right, springtime is when things are fertile, things are growing, things are coming out of the earth here. This is when planting and all that sort of stuff goes. So as you'll learn a little more about the mythology between Virgo and that symbolism with planting and harvesting and fertility and what have you. And then you can see again a little bit about Libra here, and how that, I want you to remember how that kind of defines a little bit of springtime. But please remember, springtime constellations, Boötes with Arcturus, Virgo with Spica, Leo with Regulus, all right? And the Dippers, again, are very prominent, but those are circumpolar. And remember how the winter constellations are now very low in the sky. those springtime ones. And look at the ones that are just now coming up. Those are the summer ones, and that should make sense.